Who are the people of the Most High? Israelites.
Good to go.
All right, Shalom. Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, the water, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, for giving us another day. And the Spirit gave me this lesson. I was just doing some reading over, common scriptures that we always been going over for years, and the Spirit kind of hit me to kind of go into it. So, without further ado, Bishop Menatazak, we're going to start in Acts 5, dealing with Gamaliel.
Okay. All right. So Acts chapter 5.
I think it starts about 35.
Okay.
This is when the Pharisees wanted to beat. Right. They wanted to beat and try to kill the disciples.
Mm-hmm. I was going to start at 33. You want to start at 35?
Start at 33. Read into it, and then where I want to go is 35, 36, and 37.
Okay. Come. Let me see the mic.
Sure.
It says Acts 5 and 33. It says, when they heard that, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space, and said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men.
Right, because they wanted to basically kill the disciples. So he said, look, take into account, look, what you're about to do to these men. Now he's going to expound on something. Go ahead, brother.
For before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught.
Now, point. Gamaliel said, before these days. Now, when Gamaliel made that statement, I went and looked at it in the Red Bible, and it gives you like an approximate date. 33 AD, Gamaliel makes this statement. He said, before these days, there rose up a man named Theudas. So, during that time, 33 AD, the procurator, or the military governor of Judea at that time, was Pontius Pilate. The man, who washed his hands with Yahweh Shai and all that, so on and so forth. You know the name Pontius Pilate. He was the military governor of Judea at the time when Gamaliel made this statement. Now he started speaking about Theudas. Read it again about Theudas.
Yes, sure. It says, verse 36. It said, for before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught.
Right. So Gamaliel said before these days, meaning this is in the past. This is not current history. Now, among the scholars, whether it's the Encyclopedia Judaica or Bible commentaries or whatever, these jackoffs are trying to say that when Josephus spoke about a man named Theudas, that he's talking about Theudas in Acts the 5th chapter. The way that I can prove undisputably that that's total bullshit, because you got gatekeepers and people out there who their whole purpose is to discredit the Bible and try to discredit the history and the truth that's in the Bible, to put doubt in people's minds. You got gatekeepers out there. Now, here in the Josephus in Antiquity of the Jews, book 20, chapter 5, section 1, it says this. Now it came to pass, while Theudas was procurator of Judea. Theudas was the military governor of Judea. His name was, I think, Cuspius Theudas, from 44 to 46 AD. He was the procurator of Judea. Mind you, what we read with Gamaliel in Acts 5 took place, he was making that statement in 33 AD, and he said this happened before time. Now, here, during Theudas' rule, now it came to pass, while Theudas was procurator of Judea, that a certain magician whose name was Theudas persuaded a great part of the people to take their effects with them and follow him to the Jordan River, for he told them he was a prophet, and that he would by his own command divide the river and afford them an easy passage over it. And many were deluded by his words. However, Theudas did not permit them to make any advantage of his wild attempt, but sent a troop of horsemen out against them, who falling upon them unexpectedly, slew many of them and took many of them alive. They also took Theudas alive and cut off his head and carried it to Jerusalem. This was what befell the Jews in the time of Cuspius Theudas' government. He ruled from 44 to 46 AD when that incident happened with Theudas. Gamaliel wasn't speaking about Theudas prophetically. He said this already happened. Now we're going to go back to Acts the 5th chapter. See, they're trying to take that and say that that's what Acts the 5th chapter is talking about. Mind you, the name Theudas, the name Judas, the name Jonathan, the name James are all common names. Throughout our history, there is many people who have same names. Oh, Joshua.
Surnames, yeah.
That's a common name. In the Bible, okay, in biblical history, you got Judas Maccabees, and then you got Judas Iscariot. Now, there was a man who lived during Yahushai's time named Judas the Galilean. Go back to Acts 5 and read that again from where Gamaliel was saying, then rose up before these days. Yep. He said, then rose up Theudas.
Right, verse 36, for before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught.
Go ahead, now read on.
After this man rose up Judas of Galilee.
Now, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee. Now, go ahead, read a little bit more about Judas of Galilee, because there's going to be points that's going to give you the clues.
Right, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed.
Now, then rose up Judas the Galilee, which they know him in antiquity. They call him Judas the Galilean. He rose up, and he's basically the father of zealotism when you really go into it. It's all throughout the Josephus. I'm not going to touch on that now. We ain't got that kind of time. So, after Theudas, then came Judas the Galilean. It said during what? The taxation, right? Give me Luke, the 2nd chapter. Because we're going to go back to Acts 5. But it said during the taxation was when Judas rose up, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're gonna proof it some more, right? So Luke 2:1 down to the 3rd verse.
Luke chapter 2 verse 1. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria.
Now Cyrenius was governor of Syria at that time. He was the governor of Syria, and this is when Judas the Galilean's revolt started. Between 6 to 7 AD is when this guy, Cyrenius, was the procurator or the military governor of Judea. 6 to 7 AD, which means that the Theudas that Gamaliel spoke about was a little before Judas the Galilean, but he was in the same time frame, 6 to 7 AD. So it's not talking about the same guy that I read about in the Josephus. Salakia, you know, Satan got up on here. Let me click that off.
So I read it again.
Go right ahead.
It says, and it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, and all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city.
Right. So when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, another name for Cyrenius is Quirinius. His name was also known as Quirinius, and his name was also Cyrenius. It was like another name. If you said Quirinius, they knew you were talking about Cyrenius. If you said Cyrenius, they knew you was talking about Quirinius. He's the same person. That's his other name. He had two names. So this was during his reign when he was the military governor of Judea, when Judas the Galilean's revolt came about, which was from around 6 to 7 AD, meaning Yahushai was on the earth at that time. So when Gamaliel said in times past, this guy Theudas rose up, and then after him came Judas of Galilee, that's what he was not talking about. This guy that's mentioned in the Josephus named Theudas, that was basically put down by Theudas, who was the military governor between 44 to 46 AD. So the scholars is full of bullshit. When they try to take that and equate that with the story in Acts 5. Let's go back to Acts 5.
Okay. So Acts chapter 5,
and read up right there with Judas of Galilee again.
Yep,
We're
okay.
gonna read down a little more.
Yep. So this Acts chapter 5, verse 36. It said, or 37, pardon me, I'm sorry. It said 37, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the day of the taxing and drew away much people after him, he also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone, for if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of the Most High, you cannot overthrow it.
Right. So if this counsel or this work be of men, it be of the Most High, you cannot overthrow it. But if it be of man, it can be overthrown. That's why he gave those two guys as examples of guys who came up. And basically what they did, because like it tells you in Revelation 12, Israel was in pain to be delivered, in travail and pain to be delivered from what? The hands of the Romans, because we were suffering. That from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent, which you are the Romans, took us by force and were taxing the hell out of us, which is about to come on us right now in this day and time. That revisitation of that taxation is coming, because the government is about to basically, they're going to look into everybody's bank account with a fine-tooth comb, and basically they're going to say, oh, whatever income that's in there that's unclaimed, that's not basically from your work check or whatever, that's extra money, they're going to exact taxes for. They say, oh, that's unclaimed income. So they're going through everybody's bank account with a fine-tooth comb. That's I'm gonna liken that to that taxation back then. Yeah. So if Elder Menatazak doesn't have anything to say, I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. And if the brother has nothing to say, with that, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem Rakakodash, and I say Shalom to the elect, and I hope you picked up something from this bit of information right here. Shalom.
Shalom.